and welcome back to Mixed Media. We are live again for another awesome Tuesday. That's what we stream now. Tuesday of talking about our favorite things. Before we should begin, we should introduce ourselves real quick, all three of us. My name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I said that already. Wow. Long day. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Auriela based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Ben Costello, and I'm a flute player and media composer.
My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Yes, and we've got Kai in the chat. He says first, and he did beat me to my automated first message, which is usually that. So he is literally first. So sup, Kai. Welcome to the show. And welcome to all those who are tuning in. This show is a weekly live stream podcast where we talk about a variety of different topics, whether it's about philosophy, current events, news, whatever you could possibly think of with regards to our favorite things, which tend to be, the backgrounds that we introduced just a moment ago. So we talk about movies, music, and gaming quite a bit. So if you like any of those things, or all of those things, or a combination of those things, or whatever intersection of anything you could possibly think of with regards to those things, check out our channel. There's a wealth of stuff that we've talked about in the past that you might benefit from, you might find interesting. So, that's what Mixed Media is. So how are you guys' weeks?
My week was all right. I don't think I did anything particularly interesting. I started playing Door Kickers 2. I don't think, that definitely didn't happen since the last podcast. So, it's, I'll probably end up, I started, if you don't know, I started playing the game because of our Fun Friday thing where 2 Fridays ago, or 3 Fridays ago, I was talking about a game I'd like to make, and Irving recommended Door Kickers 2 as somewhere to take some to look at and maybe take inspiration from. So I bought it and started checking it out. And probably at this point, I'm gonna just end up having a review on it at some point because I might as well. But and I could probably talk about how I think it'll affect development of the game. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I watched the film Maestro with my family, or at least my parents. Interesting film. I didn't really know anything about it other than some the controversies about the appearance of Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein. A little odd in that it's not a biographical film. It's really not about music. Leonard Bernstein, composer, conductor, educator. It's about his marriage, and it kind of presumes that you know a lot of stuff about American classical music in the 20th century, which I know enough about that. But it just casually will drop names and whatever, and if you don't know if you don't already know enough about Leonard Bernstein and who he was, it's as a musician. Kind of an odd film, if you don't know that. Although I guess it's probably nominated for a couple of Oscar awards somewhere in some categories for something. Not that I pay attention to that. Yeah. And I guess otherwise, I don't know. This is Women's History Month, so I've been challenging myself to try to listen to more women composers. Because the classical music institution tends to ignore women composers in favor of the same 5 composers dead male composers who bring in money. So yeah, trying to challenge myself to listen to just music that I'm unfamiliar with by women.
Cool. For me, I've been going through the apparently goated series, which is Planet of the Apes, the trilogy, the recent trilogy, Planet of the Apes, and I just finished film 2 this weekend, and I will say 2 is leaps and bounds better. Oh, that's a weird, weird pun by accident. Leaps and bounds better than the first one. And I'll probably be talking about the whole trilogy once I finish it. Probably the next episode I have, I'll probably do some sort of like Planet of the Apes discussion because it's interesting, very interesting series. Very lauded, like way more lauded than I thought it was. Because I remember seeing the first film in a high school auditorium, like it was for like senior week or something. I can't remember, something like that. And I don't remember remembering it too much. But then I watched the first film. I was like, oh yeah, this is better than I remembered. I probably wasn't paying attention. So I'll be talking about that at some point. And then I'm going through a rebrand as a company, somewhat. Redoing my website entirely, which kind of inspired the topic for this episode. So stay tuned for lessons I learned from filmmaking stuff. And then finally, I was supposed to close on the property that I was buying this week. Actually, in 3 days, I was supposed to close on that property, which would have been crazy. But then my lender just rug pulled me entirely. Which...
That's not good.
Just complete and utter, like, nah, never mind. Like, pretty crazy. So, any prayers about this property would be much appreciated because we've spent a lot of money and roped a lot of, like, man hours into this project already, so we would like to proceed with the purchase. There's nothing wrong with nothing changed on our end. Just, bank just decided, nah. So... yeah, all we need is a pre-approval by the end of the week, and we should still be fine. So any prayers about that would be very helpful. That's it for news. But what about about my week? But what about news?
Hold on. Did you ever listen to? Have you listened to the album that I sent you yesterday? By any chance?
I've been running around like a maniac all day. So
Fair enough. All right, I'll ask next time.
Yeah. How about news?
I got nothing. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I was looking here seems, realistically, when I say that there's nothing, but there's always news, but I don't think a lot of it's like, oh, this game's coming out, which I think is pretty, a lot of games come out, so it's not really worth mentioning. I'm still trying to take a deeper look at this Nintendo lawsuit and see, like what... because interesting, right? Like emulators and stuff like that. So see what they're saying. I have the document pulled up. I just haven't given it a proper read yet. So hopefully I'll be able to inform you guys on that next week.
Cool.
Yeah, the only thing I saw that caught my attention is the Gilded Music Supervisors had their yearly awards, and they gave their Music Supervision Award to Barbie and to George Draculius, I think it's how you pronounce his name, the music supervisor for Barbie. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's interesting in some way. I mean, I don't, know too much about... It's hard to judge music supervision if you're not a music supervisor,
I wouldn't know how to judge it, that's for sure.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess, you're judging the overall product that comes out in some ways musically and the process behind getting it there, something like that. I don't know. So I don't know. Is Barbie really like? I guess the I'm Just Ken sequence is pretty big. So that song. So I don't know.
There's a few set pieces revolving around music, I guess. Not just that one.
So that might be, just the ability to coordinate that. Music supervision is an interesting kind of thing. Be on large level or high level films, high budget films.
How do you become one? Like, how do you how does that work?
That's a really great question. So after I saw that, I'm like, okay. So I looked up the Guild of Music Supervisors, and it's quite challenging to get into the guild. It looks like, you have to have enough credits. But I guess the way you probably just have to like, and I tried to do some reading on it too. I guess you just really have to like intern with a good music supervisor or music supervisor team and work your way up, I guess. I mean, it's a position that like requires you to know a lot about everything that happens in music, and also be like the person who has to serve as like the ultimate liaison between the director and everyone else on the music end of things. So
It's kind of weird though, because like the director-composer relationship tends to not need a middleman. It's kind of like the other things, like acquiring like a particular song, right, or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're also ultimately though like you have some responsibility in like parameters for like budget and making sure that everything is licensed properly and that people are hired properly. So you might say like you might be in charge of saying like, well, we only want to work with like this orchestra contractor, or we can we only have this much budget, so I'm going to press you like composer, you have to have only this many musicians. And like I can understand what that means, but like the director might not know that if $30 million, I'm making up $30,000, can only hire so many musicians. They don't know what that means, right? So I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
Just I think they're also the role is also pretty important. I think it's probably okay. So it's probably more important when you don't have like a really established director and composer relationship. It's probably more important to when you are bringing in the composer later in the process. Then the music supervisor takes on the responsibility of like temp tracks and like what actually is the director's vision before they bother to ask the actual composers. They don't have a composer yet. You kind of say, okay, like you want some kind of this sort of mood. Is that what you want in this scene as the temp? And then that's what you give as the temp track to the composer.
Okay.
And also, I think that there's a lot of arranging things in post production as well, right? After you started mixing things, right, you kind of have to advocate for the music and like coordinating, making sure that people's egos aren't hurt in the mixing process, that sort of thing.
Cool. That makes sense. It reminds me actually, with Planet of the Apes, one thing I noticed is though it's like a very like they're both the films at least that I watched are very like blockbustery. The music is actually like distinguishable. like I actually noticed it, and it actually services the film very well. Very woodwind oriented, which is not very common these days. Which I think you've talked about before.
Yeah, is it like, for lack of a better term, the quote unquote ethnic winds? Like it's
no,
kind
actually,
of jungle? Oh, okay.
No, it's like more akin to, I guess, the older way of doing things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can recommend it because I didn't actually pay that much so much attention that I don't know if it's terribly special. But yeah, I remember going, wait, I'm hearing flutes.
I love scores with a lot of woodwinds.
Yeah.
Gosh, definitely like I think a long time ago when I talked about the music for How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, I went on kind of a little bit of a that's my main focus. Like it's a score that has a lot of woodwinds in it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been good. Is that it for music in terms of news?
Yeah, that's the only thing that caught my attention.
Yeah, the only thing I've been again running around like a madman, so I don't know what's happening, except that I know that the Hannah Gutierrez retrial is on day 8, and well, actually, 2 things. Excuse me. The word on the street about the trial is that she's toast, which I mean we've explained on the show before. the idiocy involved in what occurred there. So I mean, that's kind of predictable that she's toast. I'm just interested as to why it went to trial to begin with, why she didn't plea out of it. I don't really know the backstory because I haven't paid attention. I love watching trials, by the way. I guess that makes me weird, but the likelihood that one day I will like find the time, because I'm actually watching other trials right now, so this one had to take a back seat. But in the future, that I go back and revisit this one is not insignificantly low. So I might have the scoop at some point. But I hear that she took the stand and kind of destroyed herself, which normally you don't advise people to take the stand in their own cases unless it's like a Hail Mary kind of situation. You're trying your best to take a case that's going really poorly and hopefully try to make it better. But of course there's the equally possible chance that you make it worse. So apparently took the worst route. I don't know. That's the word on the street. But the other thing is, you should check out the Discord. I put a little poll for what I should do when it's my turn to do Fun Friday. I don't know. That's what I've been calling it. I don't know. I don't know what we should call it. But on Fridays we do Discord stuff. Whose turn is it this week?
This week it is my turn.
Ah, okay. Do you know what you're doing yet?
Yeah, we'll be continuing on from last time where I was talking about a video game that I'd like to create. I was doing some very brief high-level planning, and I'll probably be doing some more low-level planning.
Gotcha. Yeah, so if you want to go to the Discord, if you go to Film and Media, there's a little poll. And we could do a lot of things together. And you can tell me what you'd like to do. It will be a fun hangout time with the community. And if you're not on the Discord already, link in the description. There's awesome stuff happening there, conversations happening throughout the week. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Just going back a second. So then, what is going on then with Alec Baldwin? Didn't they? I can't even remember. It's been so many things that have happened. Like they dropped the charges. Didn't they refile charges against him?
Oh yeah, they've dropped and refiled these charges maybe 5 times.
So where are we with him now?
He's charged again.
Okay.
Yes, he's charged again. That was the latest news. I think he was indicted, so charging, indicting are different things. So they've charged him and withdrawn the charge fast enough before grand juries could indict him. So it's always been like before a grand jury actually went, oh yes, this is actually meets probable cause or whatever, and or at least that's what grand jury is supposed to do. And this time they actually let it go to grand jury for an indictment. So he's actually indicted. So he'll either be going to trial or pleading, or they'll drop it again before trial. Who knows? Who knows what happens? But my opinion, as always, has been if you didn't know this, we did a 3-part series on the Rust shooting. If you want to check that out, and it's not like goss or anything like that. It's actual information. So if you want to check that out, you can check out. You can search it on our channel, but. My position has always been that they both clearly were negligent. Actually, 3 people were clearly negligent. Those 2 and the assistant director, I forget his name.
Hall, I think, right? Is his last name?
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember that, but we've talked about it so many times that it sticks in my head.
Yes, definitely. All 3 of them very responsible. There's not really a way to gradient responsibility in the way that things happened. They're pretty much all responsible. And if you're going to charge Hannah, my opinion was always you must charge all the people involved. The assistant director got away with it because he flipped on his 2 other... he flipped on him. He ratted. So he's never going to be charged because he's probably, I wonder, in the Gutierrez Reed trial if he's going to be a star witness or he's already taken the stand or something. I don't know, but in exchange for information, they gave him immunity. So that happened a long time ago. No, he took a plea. That's what it was. They didn't give him immunity. He took a plea, and it was like, I think it was a no jail time plea, but like I don't know if it was house arrest or parole. I can't entirely remember, but yeah, that's how that's been going. So I'm glad that if Hannah's going to jail, that Alec Baldwin has to face the same trial. That's absolutely fair. So yeah. All right. Shall we go into our first segment of the night? So first segment, yes.
Did we thank our sponsors? I don't think we did.
Oh yes, our wonderful, wonderful sponsors. So we've
Just
got.
want to make sure we do that.
Yes, we've got 99 Crime, K Kairos, we've got Post, and we've got Alex Egbert supporting us at mixedmedia.locals.com. They're awesome people, and it's only $5 a month if you go to mixedmedia.locals.com. There's a bunch of perks, one of which is drawing on the live whiteboard here on the side of the screen. If you would like to doodle during the show, that's really cool. If you want to make fun of us, if you want to call us stupid names, don't go too far, but but if you want to say silly stuff, you can say silly stuff. We don't really care. So that's available to you as well as a bunch of stuff. If you go to mixedmedia.locals.com, you'll see all the stuff that you get by supporting the show. So there you go. Am I live on YouTube? My YouTube is
Uh-oh.
I can check.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up.
It's like, I don't know if it's lagging just on my end or if it's like because my Rumble's just fine for whatever reason. Oh, I think it's back.
Like, do we get a cross conversation yet? Like,
Seems fine to me.
Okay. What, Nathan?
Do we get cross chat like stuff on different platforms now, or is that still broken?
I've gone back to Restream until I can figure Rumble Studio out properly, and so for now we're back on Restream, so everything should be working just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so here we go on the first segment. I will be talking about 10 things I wish I knew about the film biz before I started a film company, and hopefully it'll be at least interesting. At least interesting, and maybe applicable to you. And it's not just about a film business, it's just kind of business in general. There are regrets. So, yeah, stick around if you're interested in that topic, and then we'll finish off with arguing with Reddit as usual. And here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you've been around, thank you for watching us. Thank you for being with us live here. And if you're just stopping in, I will be talking about 10 things I wish I knew before starting a film company. And yeah, hopefully that'll be interesting. And the great thing about a live podcast is that you get to participate, meaning you can ask questions, whatever. There's no stupid questions here on Mixed Media. You can ask whatever you want, make whatever comments you want. You could say, wow, you did that? You're really dumb? I don't really care. You can say whatever you want. Live podcast, you can be part of the conversation. That being said, we should reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Auriela based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and a video game developer.
Sweet. Well, I'll just kind of hop right into it. I don't really have much introduction other than the reason this came to mind is because I'm going through a bit of a rebrand with my company, a refocusing, and I just had a few thoughts float into my head as to things that are different now in my company than it was at the beginning, expectations now versus before, and a lot of bumps, a lot of potholes. Business is really, really, really difficult, and hopefully, at the very least, if you're out there and you don't get anything but feeling like you're not alone, if you already own your own business, or if you're looking to start one and it's daunting, hopefully this will be helpful as I am trying to figure it all out. Live time. So there you go. Okay, so I'm going to do this in no particular order. So I'm just going to kind of rattle through my list here. Let's start here. So, and this is maybe one of the biggest points, is that I actually started my company. So Auriela was supposed to be a film company, pretty much entirely. The goal was to pick up video contracts to sustain a film studio, which is a very common model. It's the model of most indie studios, right? Is they do advertisements, they do other things, and then they also produce short films and feature films as well to try to break the whole of the cadre into the field. There's kind of two ways to become a filmmaker, like a director specifically. One is like starting at PA and just like enslaving yourself to the studio system, working hours and hours and hours and hours, and hoping that you talk to the right people, and hoping you get into the right circles, and hoping you work on the right projects. And yeah, there's plenty of people who are probably very talented who try it that way, and they end up just burning out and giving up because it's a really, really rough path. I chose to take the other path, which was kind of opened up more recently, like the past 10 years, which is sort of like creating your own thing and bringing your own whole structure team sort of along with it. Except, and this is this is regret number one, except I didn't really have a team. Way back, and Ben will remember this actually, from ye old days in college. But post-college, basically, I had a bunch of design, or pre-post-college, right before college ended. I had a lot of dreams and ideas for what I wanted to do with the company. So sort of the people I wanted to have around me, Ben being one of those people for sure. And
thank you.
Yes. I remember talking, to some of my friends, so to name names, who Ben would know as well. So like Kelsey, like Emily, and all this. Awesome people, by the way. We kind of had an agreement of like, because we made a short film together, we kind of had an agreement which is like, we should keep doing this because it actually worked out much better than most most student film situations where it's kind of a dumpster fire, for lack of a better phrase. But we seemed to actually have a good jive, so we were kind of like, okay, why don't we just keep doing this?
I would say, like, relative to at least like our direct comparisons in college where we went, yes, it was an efficiently run operation that like actually had actionable goals and a process to get there.
Yes, and we just the personalities involved was just so awesome. I was very blessed. I still feel, every time I remember it, I feel so blessed, by the whole experience. It was so good. Great first experience as a director, or over a major thing at least. And yeah, and then basically post-college happens and everyone scatters, which I guess I probably should have expected, and kind of made me sad. But clearly those conversations were not going to be had anymore, because everyone kind of went their own way. And so I was kind of left with the company on my own, basically. I was like, well, now I have this thing that I didn't intend to do on my own, but like, also I literally cannot do anything else. I think I will actually die. So, so I end up basically going into industry for my field. Actually, if you didn't know this, I studied computer engineering. I wasn't a film major. So I ended up going into the computer engineering industry to hopefully save money and start my own company afterwards, right? Which, during that time, I learned a lot about personal finance, which is a huge eye-opener. Just like, I realized, I was like, wow, they don't teach you anything useful in school about finance. And I learned, hours and hours, like while coding, hours and hours and hours of personal finance that has changed my life, basically. But I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad to go at this alone, and then I'll kind of pull people up later, right? That's my first regret. Is that, yeah, that's a little bit of a dream. Starting a business is extremely lonely. It's like one of the loneliest things I've ever done in my entire life. It is so unbelievably, it's like, and I'm not trying to scare you from doing it, because I actually think more people should do it than do end up doing it. it would fit a lot of people's personalities very well. But it's more so like expect, like, well, first thing is know yourself, right? So for myself, I already know myself in the sense that I work well in teams. I don't really desire to work alone very often. I love having people around me, and I love working with people. And I knew that going into it, but I ended up in a situation where I didn't have that. But I regret not forcing it to happen regardless before I started. Instead of saying, okay, well, now I know all this personal finance stuff. You know, now I think I understand where I'm going to go. Let me just stake it out on my own, clear the path, and then, like, you know, and then bring people along the way as things happen. That's a pretty soul crushing way to go about it, at least for my personality. You know, maybe some people could do that, but for me, that's been pretty darn rough. And the reason why it's so lonely is because so few people do it. There's not really, if you don't know people who are business makers, especially in your field, you know, it's one thing, okay, I have a friend who's a lawyer who's starting their own practice. It's kind of very different from, you know, I'm trying to make art for money. It's a very different kind of practice. And, you know, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal because you know nobody, or I know nobody. You know, I really don't know anybody of stature. I don't know anybody. I don't have, like, resources from my parents or anything to dip into, and all I have is just what I've built up myself, basically. So, and then you end up taking risks with all of that you have. And you take those risks alone. It's crazy. You know, you're like, dang, I'm going to spend $5,000 on this thing. And then you're like, if this fails, I'm the only one responsible, and there's no one else to help me pick up the pieces, right? So it's kind of a lonely experience. So if that's you, if you're the kind of person who likes working in a team, force the team first. And it's something that hopefully, for me, I can try to kind of dig myself out of the hole I created of doing this on my own. We'll see how it works out. I'll let you know. So that'd be number one, or at least the first thing I regret. The second thing I regret is once I started staking it out. So basically, what I did is I saved a preset amount of money before I was going to go out that I knew would last me a long time based off of a bunch of calculations that I learned to do via personal financing, basically. And basically, my idea here was like, okay, worst case scenario, if I had to live on my cash pile, how long will it last me, right? And, you know, I had to do the ramen life for like however many months. How many months would this cash pile last me? Which was not a bad. Actually, I highly recommend. This is the way you should figure out how much you should save, with a big caveat. But I'll come back to that in one of the other points. More importantly, though, is once I had to stake it out on my own, I sought the path of least resistance instead of seeking the path that was trajectorially most related to my end goal with my company. So what I want to do is make films. What the market wants is marketing, right? Like, and I'm like, okay, I can do marketing, and there's a lot of video stuff involved in marketing, so maybe let me take the path of least resistance where all these clamoring clients are, where they're like, pick me, I need this, I need that video, I need this video and that video. Please make shorts for me, please, like, you know, whatever it is the obvious path of least resistance before me, and I took that to hopefully make sure that I wasn't bleeding out, right? From the very beginning, I was like, well, I already know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go where the money is. And from there, I will start building the building bricks. The bricks will go in, and then I'll start building the thing. I think that was a very poor choice. I should have gone to the path that led me closer to the goal that I was aiming for, which was filmmaking, right? Instead of getting sidetracked on basically a side quest through marketing. Which, I don't hate marketing, so it wasn't, you know, the field itself isn't painful, I guess, but if you like your time, I guess kind of a big theme that you'll see in this list is time is so valuable. Like when you don't realize how much time, like if I would equate every minute of my life to $1, I probably could calculate it. Like at this point, time, and it would be a lot. And it's not because I make a lot per hour. It's because every minute I spend doing something, I'm spending that minute not doing something else. And that's like a huge trade-off. Every minute I spend marketing and not working on a script is not just a trade of like not earning money versus earning money. It's more than that. It's actually not earning money, earning money versus not earning money, but actually going towards the trajectory that I'm going towards, right? So, and you kind of have to pick. Like, you only have 24 hours in a day. You actually do have to pick. And that sucks. But if you think about it in the right lens, you can more efficiently blend what makes you money and where you're going a lot better. So I should have pursued almost purely commercial contracts. And I probably would have been doing a lot better by now and closer to my goal. Because at least with commercial filmmaking, you're still filmmaking, right? You're making the correct contacts. You're spending your time actually honing the skills that you'll be using down the line. So, huge regret of mine. I should not have been making logos. I should not have been making websites. I should have stuck entirely to video, basically. So that's another bad thing I did. And my recommendation to you, and no financial advice, no legal advice. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not your financial advisor. Go ask someone else. But my humble opinion is, if you're going to do filmmaking, just do filmmaking for a predetermined, calculated amount of time. Just do it only. Like, and I mean the purity of it. Like, the beginning is actually the time when you're the most flexible, which is weird because it's the time you're the most scared. So, you know, you have nothing built out, you have no equipment, you've got nothing, and you're thinking to yourself, I must gear everything towards making the next dollar. If you've done this right, like I calculated my stuff out where I had basically guaranteed that I would have 6 to 18 months worth of savings depending on how bad it was. So, like, I was fine. That's actually a really long time. I don't think I appreciated that. In my head, I was like, man, I only got a year to, like, make... No, like, it's actually a long time. And I should have set aside probably 6 months, maybe 4 months or something, to spend that time seeing if I could just go directly to the goal. And I could just skip all the crap and just go directly there. And if I would have had success there, and the likelihood is I wouldn't, right? But at least I've taken the time where I'm most flexible. I don't have clients. I don't have people who have expectations from me. I don't have debts to pay off, right? I just got cash in me. Take that time to take your shot, right? At the end goal. That'd be my recommendation there. I mean, don't spend it all, but you get what I mean. And that kind of ties into kind of some interrelated topics on finance. One is I thought I was so well prepared on the intellectual side of personal finance. I was learning how powerful debt was, leverage. I'm learning these things for basically the first time in my life, what an asset really is, what money really is, the advantages of having a business, the tax advantages, the debt advantages, like, you learn a few things. I'll give you a few facts. Hopefully this will encourage you to start a business. But you learn a few facts and you realize how awesome the ability to own a business actually is. You realize that bankruptcy is different for your business than you, right? So if you do your I'm not a lawyer, no financial advice, but if you set up your company properly, like normally, it should be set up properly. If your business fails, that does not mean that you fail. Now, it's very bad. Don't do it. But at the very worst case scenario, right, the debts that your business owes aren't necessarily debts that you owe if you do everything properly. So if I went under tomorrow, I sold all my equipment and I still can't pay off my debts, I go bankrupt, that doesn't mean I'm losing my house, right? Like, realizing that is actually extremely comforting. So, if I did my job properly. So, bankruptcy protection, tax advantage, which is huge, right? Like, you don't get taxed on your expenses. And access to a lot of tools that normal people don't have access to. Getting business credit is super easy compared to being a person. It doesn't hurt your personal credit score. It doesn't come into... So even if I owe a ton of money, even if I pay late, it doesn't hit my personal credit score, right? So, like, these are huge things. I can get insurance plans that are cheaper in terms of liability insurance, at least. People tripping on my property and dying or something. Extreme example, but... there's a lot of advantages, basically. And then you go, dang, this is going to be easy. I'm just going to I'm going to save this amount of money, I'm going to go right to it. I know the path of least resistance. Slow down. There's a few things that I regret, at least, that I did that were dumb. One, I did not care about my personal credit because I thought that I could do everything on the business's credit, which meant it was not that, I had bad personal credit or anything like that. It was that my personal credit history was poor because we're all young. When you're just out of college, you don't have 5 credit cards and a mortgage and a car payment and yada, yada, yada to show that you're a good creditor. So, yeah, my credit score showed as like, oh, this is a good above average score. But you don't realize that credit card companies don't just look at the actual top line score. They also look at your history. So they look, how many credit accounts do you have? What are the limits on those accounts? How many times have you overdrawn? Yada, yada. They look at other stuff, mostly related to history, and you need to start building that history early on. Which, if you're a parent, get your child a card at 16. It is the most OP thing you could do. Don't give them the card at 16. Just hold the card. Just get it in their name. Just hold the card at 16. They'll have 2 years of history already by the time they're 18. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I know a guy who is a little older than me, and he has 13 years of credit card history because his mom or dad got a card, like a joint card, half in his name and in the parents' name, and then just like used it normally. So
it's pretty crazy. So I was like, okay, business credit is so great. I don't have to care about my personal credit. I'm just going to go into this and I'm going to borrow as I need from the business side of things. Wrong. Very wrong. Personal credit is super important when you're running a business too, because it gets you quicker access to that business credit. And sometimes you absolutely need it. And if you don't have it, it can be really bad. So for example, if a client comes over to me and is like, dude, like, I can't find anyone to do this $50,000 shoot. You're like, yo, I could do a $50,000 shoot. This guy's about to pay me $50,000. But I don't have the $20,000 worth of equipment that I need in order to do the shoot, or extra equipment, that I need to do the shoot. And you're like, I know what I'm going to do. I learned my lesson on watching the YouTube videos on personal finance. I'm going to borrow via business credit. I'm going to get a business credit card with a $20,000 line. I'm going to get personal or business lines of credit from the bank. They're going to, $10,000 each or something. And you're like, it's just easy. I'll just do that and it'll be done. My business credit is perfect because I always pay on time as a business. Wrong. Anyone who's saying that is not being 100% truthful to you. Most likely, the only way you'll be able to get that contract, spend that $20,000 to get the $50,000, which is a no-brainer, and you're doing what you love. The only way to guarantee that is if your personal credit is also good. So now what you do when you apply, you're applying personally what's called a personal guarantee. So this does actually get your assets involved. So if you can't pay it back, then okay, yeah, they might be able to take your car, right? But it's actually so much more powerful when you could combine your business and your personal credit to the point where you might be able to nab that $20,000 loan by applying for 3 credit cards or applying for two bank lines of credit and a credit card. You might be able to cover it all with 0% APR for 12 months. Crazy, by having both your personal credit and your business credit being 100% stellar. And then you get the contract and then you're happy. So I should have built that credit history before I even left my job. And I just wasn't cognizant of that. And that was dumb. Okay. Along the same lines is business credit. So on the business credit side of things, it's much harder to start building history without that personal credit that has a good history, which means you're gonna have to spend hours. Like I didn't realize, like I probably spent 100 hours trying to build my, maybe 100 hours isn't, that's probably an exaggeration. I probably spent 50 hours, just building my business's profile such that it was even recognized by the credit bureaus on the business side. They're not the same. Equifax does not exist on the business side. It's Small Business Association. TransUnion does exist. What's the other one? I can't remember. The other E one. Doesn't exist on the on the business side. It's Dun and Bradstreet instead, right? Those people have no idea who you are, so you have to build a profile through their metrics. I think this whole system's dumb, by the way, so I'm not endorsing it. I'm just telling you what's up. Building that business profile probably took me 50 hours and $200 of expenses to buy things that I didn't need in order to build credit. It's really dumb. The easier way is to just get a Blue Business Cash Amex using a personal guarantee to get your file going. I don't have my wallet on me. I was going to pull it out. It's so easy to get that card. It's like absurdly easy. Almost no information. Once you have the card, you've got access to all of those other, Dun and Bradstreet, Small Business Association. They all now have a file on you just from that one action, and now you have a useful card. So, build your personal history to get the business credit, but also, it's not just that, it's also business credit is easier to start getting if you do it the right way. Okay. And then the last thing along these lines of loans, I think, is if you're into real estate like I am, and you should be if you're a business owner, it is the easiest way to protect yourself. And I'm talking to you, artists. Like, you might be like, I don't want to do real estate because I just want to paint things. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's spreadsheets. It's whatever. It's dumb. You have to go on the market. Yada, yada, yada. Houses are too expensive. I get it. 100%. Understood. My point is going to be that a house is, for an artist, is like almost the, like, it's like such a, like, premium thing. Like, think about it. You're a painter. You buy a duplex. One side you rent out and it pays the mortgage or 90% of the mortgage of the other side. Doesn't even matter if it pays the whole thing. People get so caught up in, like, if someone's paying 80% of your housing, that's, like, most people pay 100% of their housing, not 20%, right? So, it doesn't have to be perfect numbers. It just has to be good enough, which I'm not going to define here. It's outside the scope. Ideally, you're making money off of it, but that's a whole other thing. My point is, though, is that when you undercut the expense to your life, you make yourself so much more free to take risks as an artist. So if you do paintings, how much longer is your money pile going to last, right, if you have 80% of your housing covered? Also, how much less stressful is that, right? A lot less stressful. So I already knew that going in, and I planned on buying a house, but I didn't realize how hard it would be to buy a house based off of just my business income. So it actually didn't even matter how much money my business was making. It is because it is a small business that's young, and young for banks means like less than 10 years old. Like, like young is not young as you might intuitively think. You will not be able to get a mortgage based off of your business income. You'd have to be able to get to the point where you're paying yourself W-2s, which is almost impossible unless you're making like a decent amount of money for at least 2 to 3 years of history, paying yourself W-2s that are high enough to qualify. So you might pay yourself W-2s like year 1 and 2. But if those aren't high enough to qualify you for the house, but year 3 is high enough, still not good. You don't have 3 years of history, you only have 1, right? So it's much harder to buy a house as a business owner. Do it before. If you have a job, it doesn't matter what job you have. Like, if you have a job beforehand, buy a house with that. It's so much easier as an employee of some other company to buy a house. Do it then. Absolutely do it then. That's a huge regret of mine. I'm just buying a property now. And I've been trying to do this basically since I started the company. So it's horrible. So I highly regret that. So buy a house when you're a W-2 employee. Okay. Oh, the other good things about housing I should have said is, okay, great. You're doing so great with your business now. You're running it out of your own house, and you get to the point where, you know, your sales are so high that you need a location. Guess what you have? A location next door. You don't even have to do anything. You just wait for that person's lease to run out, and you've got an office. It's wonderful, you know. So, like, it really can be a great thing for you as an artist to own property. It can be a wonderful thing, and you don't have to pay rent. I mean, you'll have to pay exorbitant rent if you want to get some office space for your studio, right? Okay. Let's see here. Where shall we go? Let's go to YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel, and when I just got started, organic growth was like a thing, and it was very possible to organically grow via social media. YouTube was always been the hardest, but even then, at least it existed, right? Today, organic growth is dead, so don't even attempt. Like, don't even attempt unless you have a very specific strategy, a very specific audience who's ready to listen to you. Don't even attempt to do organic growth on social media platforms today. However, if you're going to do YouTube as a means of marketing yourself, as a means of, I mean, this particularly applies to filmmakers because it's very appealing, right? So you get to make videos, which helps you make money. That's pretty great. so like, you know, it's a pretty awesome thing. And I still would recommend doing this, but do it with a different mindset. YouTube is near on a full-time job. It just is. To do it properly is near on a full-time job. I do not post regularly, if you go to my YouTube channel, very obviously, because I've tried to do too many things at once, and I didn't expect YouTube to be so darn difficult. It is super difficult. If you, as a video maker, think that you're particular about your filmmaking and you're like gonna just kind of throw away that particularity when you make YouTube videos, you're not. That's one thing. But two, it takes a lot of other work to be successful. It takes a lot of finding the right audience, pulling them in, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to go the social media route, social media is a full-time job, which means your business will be a part-time job if you want to do social media properly. That's actually a viable route. It's actually a route I'd recommend some people go. Full-time YouTube, part-time your business, and then at some point you can swap those out once you can hire help, right? It's not a inviolable strategy. It's just, don't expect to do full-time YouTube and full-time job. You'll die. So don't even try. That would be my advice. Okay. Number whatever we're on would be and this kind of, I guess this kind of goes in hand, so I'll go this route. It kind of goes with the loneliness thing as well. Is hiring an employee is near impossible, especially these days. It's near impossible. You have to pay, like, first of all, salaries are at an all-time high right now, but they've been at a high for a long time, for years. So you're not going to get anyone cheap. You don't want to do that anyway, for obvious reasons. You know, you're not going to get anyone cheap. And the amount of regulation, tax, benefits, oh my goodness. You are going to... Getting a human to help you a paid human to help you, is so ridiculously expensive, it's near impossible. So how do people do it? It took me a while I was doing this. I was like, I don't get it. I don't get how people get employees, because it's kind of a chicken and egg problem, because you need to make more money than you can make as one person in order to hire two people. I mean, if you think about it, like, that's kind of logical, right? Like, I have 2 people's worth of work, so I need to hire someone, but I can't do 2 people's worth of work because I'm one person. So, so how does this work? How do I, like, exponentiate, You do that by massive amounts of loans. It took me a while to figure this out, because I was like, I understand leverage, but, like, how do you get enough leverage in order to hire an employee? You just need more leverage. Just even more leverage. Most businesses, if you think about restaurants, it's crazy what you're doing when you start a restaurant. You have to buy all the equipment. You have to pay rent. You have to you have to hire a ton of employees with all this overhead, and you're not going to make money for like the first year guaranteed. So where's all that money coming from? It's all debt. All of it is debt. I mean, some of it might be a nest egg, but not all of it's going to be a nest egg. I've got $20,000 saved on the side, but I've got to borrow $100,000 in order to start this business. Low side, So this is a regret of mine, is not taking into account the first employee before I even started. When you're doing your math on the personal finances, you're putting together your plan, first employee is the number one goal. Human capital is the number one resource. You cannot do more work than you can do. And that's a hard limit. Does that make sense? Like, you just can't expend more energy than you have. So you need another person. You need to kind of clone yourself. And you can't do that unless you can pay them. And now you've got a person you're responsible for. They might have a wife, they might have kids. I mean, you make a mistake, their life is also shattered. So it's pretty tough. It's a pretty tough thing to try to do. So take it into account before you even begin. The one of your first goals should be employee. I don't care what business you're in. Film, so important. So important. So there's that. Let's see here. So I spent a lot of my time the beginning of my company in New York City. Not terribly my choice, because Steph was in med school, so I couldn't not be in New York City because that's where her school was, and we had just gotten married, so that was a commitment forced by circumstance. However, I thought at the very least it would be, I don't know how to put this, exposing. Like, I would be exposed to a lot of the stuff going on in New York City with the film scene and stuff like this. I would meet a lot of people, contacts I could take forward. Because I never really intended to live in New York City or to run my business out of New York City. I intended to run it out of like North Jersey or something, right out of the city, right outside the city, where I could kind of have the best of both worlds. Not have super high expenses, but also be able to go into the city for work whenever necessary. So that was kind of the dream. But being in the city, do not do it. Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a trap. If you're thinking of doing this, run away. It's a trap. The primary trap is just expense. Like, it is. Like, you think you look at rent prices, you think you look at food prices, and you think you understand how expensive it is. It is so much more than those two things. Yeah, rent and food are going to be like the biggest things for sure in your budget. Oh, but taxes, tolls, public transport, like, it really, really racks up like crazy. Living in the city, you do not have into 2024 at least. In 2030, it might be different. I don't know. In 2024, it is not affordable to do this. Don't do this. Don't. Don't move to New York City. Very bad idea. The other thing is, there's so many of you. you might think, wow, I'm not in LA, so at least maybe there's a chance, that someone might notice me. No, it's really bad still. Like, there are so many people there that you are a commodity. You become commoditized, You're not an individual artist. You're artist number 528, right? And that's just the nature of the economics of the area, but you're not going to get jobs that compensate you for the expenses that you're going to be paying for being in the city. I remember, I'm going to say this now, it's kind of embarrassing, but I remember one of the first jobs I did in New York City was on a pilot show set. And I was like, I knew I was undercutting myself on price, but it was the first one. So I was like, that's fine, it's the first one. I'm getting paid at all is kind of cool, so it is what it is. But the guy was like, dude, I can't find anyone to do post-production for me. And I was like, oh, okay. It was like, can you do post-production? I was like, yeah. Because I was the cinematographer for that particular shoot. And I was like, yeah, I can do post-production. I'm thinking, this is gonna go well. And he was just like, dude, I've only got $1,000. And I was like,
for us, people who don't deal with movies, like, what it would be a normal rate?
for who? I mean,
like, if you were to be paid fairly, what would be the amount?
I will say at the time, so I'll go with the skill set that I had at the time, like how skilled I was at editing, color, whatever. I was pretty darn skilled compared to, I would say, I'm not saying this to boast, I'm just being realistic. I was probably more skilled than the average person working post-production in New York City at the time. Minus audio. I'm not good at audio. I'm still not good at audio. I'm much better than I was back then. I'm kind of embarrassed for back then, but audio is not my strong suit. I did everything. I did editing, audio, color, VFX, whatever post-production stuff you could possibly think of. I did it all. Graphics, all of it for $1,000. That was nuts. Oh yeah, what would it cost? Let's see. How many hours did it take me? It took me forever. I don't remember. Let's say per hour at my skill level, I should have probably been paid like minimum $60-$70 an hour. Minimum. And that's if I had the experience to back up my skill, like if I looked like someone who had been doing it for 5 to 10 years, right? Or maybe 10 years is a more appropriate number. I guess technically I've been doing it for a while if you count college time, but like actual career work, if I had been doing it for 10 years, I would have been making triple that easily. So yeah, I didn't get paid that. Why did I bring this up? I bring this up because it's people. I'm actually being paid more to do like single like photography jobs now than I was paid to do that whole post-production run. And it's because of my location. People are much poorer here. Much poorer. I live in a very economically depressed area. Wonderful people, but it's a very economically depressed compared to the rest of the country. But my cost of living is pennies. It is nothing. My rent here, I'll say, is I rent this apartment for $750 a month. I mean, that's bonkers. My food basically just falls off of everywhere. Like, food is just 2 cents everywhere. Food is so cheap. Cost of doing business, I basically don't pay taxes, business-wise at least. My municipal taxes are basically zero because I live in a tiny, tiny town. And there's, no one regulating me, pretty much at all. all this is quite stimulating as a business. But more importantly, I'm the only one here who does what I do. Unlike the city. It's like the stark contrast. In the city, I pay more, and there's 10,000 of me. Here, I pay less, and there's one of me. It's like pretty much perfect scenario in that regard.
But I guess the argument would be that there's there's not less competition. There's less competition, which is good. There's less demand.
No, actually, it's the exact opposite. Relative to the amount of people who can do what I do, which is one, there are like 200 people who have needed this service who just didn't have someone around them who did the service. So I'm the only person. And that could be very bad for them if I sucked. I happen to not suck, so it's fine. But, no, actually, the demand ratio is way higher in these rural areas. I'm not telling you to go rural, per se. I can't tell you what's best for your particular scenario. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I would highly recommend you look into rural areas like this. Highly, highly recommend. But don't go to the city. That's really the takeaway. Do anything else but live in the city. Don't do it. It's so depressing too. It's one of the most depressing things ever. You think you're lonely already starting a business? Imagine everyone wants to rip you to shreds. On top of that, it's just horrible. Highly would not recommend. Don't go city slicking. Don't city slicker it. Whatever the phrase is. Also, don't community is so powerful. It's one thing when in the city some director goes, "Man, you shot that thing great," which I've heard. You did a great job. But it's like very transactional still. Like it's like you got the thing off my checklist and now I can look better for it, right? Here I do something for my community and the affirmation is like personal. It's like you did a really good job and you've changed my life for it. Is a much different sentiment, if you get what I mean. It is much more in accord, I think, to what most artists kind of want out of it. Is this kind of like personal connection. So consider it. Okay. I've got a few left here. So, I already did this one. Truly a few left. If you're struggling, like I was for a very long time, I'm still like not I'm spend most of my time trying to undo past mistakes, so this is kind of partly why I'm making this video, so you hopefully can avoid some of these things. And it's hard to undo those. But also, I guess, mistakes make you wiser is pretty true. It's pretty true. But if you're really struggling, don't forget that you can... So, again, your time is unearthly valuable. Honestly, like, you could easily value, if you're good at what you do, you could value your time to yourself as like $300 an hour. It's that valuable, right? Like $500 an hour, easily. If you said $1,000 an hour, I'd be like, probably. To yourself, at least, right? So there's a few things that go on here. Don't be afraid to trade money for time. And it's not a shame. So, like, I at least had in my head, and I think it's because maybe some things other people said, sort of like the hustle crowd, if you get what I mean. People are like, you just need to hustle more. Hustle. Right? It's like, do everything yourself to save the pennies. That is so the opposite of what you should be doing. It's the exact opposite. Do everything you can to save the pennies of time. Time. I mean, do this for your own sanity, too. Like, I mean, I'm married, so I would like to spend some time with my wife and not work 100% of the time. But, community, friends, family, like, these things are your lifeblood as an artist, too. Like, you'll die creatively if you don't live, if you get what I mean. You actually have to live a life. So, where am I going with this? if it costs you $100 to buy a site template for your website, let's say you're a web designer. You're like, I'm a web designer. I really want to create a website that's so flashy, so nice, so whatever, so that I can show off to my clients so that they look at it and they're like, wow, I really want to buy a website from this guy. Wonderful. And you're like, but I'm a web designer. I need to build this thing from scratch. I'm going to spend all this time building this thing from scratch to be so darn impressive. Wrong. Be impressive. Pay $100 for a great template. Right? This is just an analogy. Pay $100 for a great template that cuts out 80% of the hours. And then use the extra 20% to make the website your own. Do this
this also depends on how custom you need the website to be. So in the case of my website, where I don't even have a final vision yet, it would be bad to buy like $100 website template, for example, because I don't even know if I would use that like in 3 days, you know? Like things are highly likely to change. But I mean, it was nice that I have the ability to code websites, but if you don't, then it definitely would be, I guess, useful to like think about what the heck you're actually trying to do and plan accordingly.
Yeah, no, it's just an example, so don't universalize almost anything I say. Nothing's a universal truth, but like for example, what you're making is like your website is your product, so based off of how you're doing it, it is the case that it's probably better for you to just create it from scratch, right? But for the web designer, the website's just another billboard, right? For their presence. It's their online presence. And it's just got to look good. It doesn't have to be from scratch. From scratch, the person looking at it does not see from scratch written on the website or something like this, right? Only do what you must do in order to have a good product and good integrity and enjoy yourself. Don't do any more of it. If you can pay, this goes to anything. If you can pay $200 to get all your tax filings done, or your LLC creation, you look at that, you're like, they want me to pay $200 for what I can do for free? And you start doing for free, and you're like, this is going to take me 5 hours? Well, you might calculate it out, you're like, well, it's going to take me 5 hours versus $200. 200 divided by 5 is $40 an hour. I mean, would I really not want to save $40? What is my time worth? My time is actually worth $30 an hour because I say so. And so that means, logically, that means I should not pay and I should do it myself because it's worth more than me. Wrong. That time is not just what you could be doing working out there, but it's also what you could be building that could be exponentiating into the future. It's not just time spent doing photography, it's time spent working on your next photography client, which can be worth twice as much per hour. It's the time spent working towards your ultimate goal in whatever career trajectory that you want to be on. So, yeah. And that also means that if you're really struggling, and this kind of ties a bow around everything. So I think I'll actually leave it here because this is a nice bow tying thing. Your time, everything is related. The cash you have, the cash flow you make, the debt you have, the access to debt you have, and your time. These are basically all metrics of the same thing. Debt is money. Ability to get debt is money. Ability to get debt is also time, because you can hire someone now. Like, it's all the same thing. These are all the same. Time is money is the most true statement that's ever been said, right? If you can do something that's a little bit unsavory to save your business, let's say you're on the brink, and you need to trade time for money, do it in such a way that you get access to one of those other things. Meaning you get access to more debt, you get access to more cash flow. What do I mean by that? So you might be tempted to go like, look, I'm about to go bankrupt. I owe $10,000 to the bank. and it's due in 6 months. I don't know, just making this up. You might be tempted to go, I just need to nab more photography clients. I just need to nab more cinematography jobs. I just need to do more of what I've been doing that's working. That's partly the answer, probably. You probably should be doing more of it. That's fine. But what if you can't get enough of that in time? What have you deleted? Time. You've deleted time from the equation, right? What might you be able to do instead? This is going to sound horrifying, but if you're desperate, this might be necessary. Why don't you get a part-time job instead? Why do I say that? You become a W-2. Once you become a W-2, what happens? Access to debt goes through the roof, right?
Wait, a W-2?
Yeah.
What is this?
Like an employee, like a salaried employee.
Like the tax employee? The tax employee. The tax form?
The tax form, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if we're talking about the same W-2.
Yes.
Okay.
If you become a W-2, right, so like you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm only going to make like this much an hour. If I do the calculations, I can't save enough to save myself from that 10K because I won't be doing more cinematography jobs, which pay me more per hour. Okay, great. Think about it this way instead. You could do that W-2 job for 6 months, make some money. You're going to cry. I get it. But you could borrow $30,000. Think more flexibly about the way all these things. I haven't.
How does this enable you to borrow $30,000? Is it because being employed? I mean, it look good. The lenders are more likely to give you money if you have a job.
And they can't see your business debts, so you go to the bank and they can't ask you what are your liabilities for your business. That's not in the equation for when they're giving you the personal debt. If that makes sense. So they go, oh, you want $30,000? Well, you make $50,000 a year. I'm just making something up, right? So here's your $30,000. What do? You take that $30,000, you pay down your loan for $10,000, and either pay back the $20,000 right to the bank, or now maybe you can do something to remedy whatever caused you to go into debt to begin with. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But I'm just saying, these things, time, money, cash flow, access to debt itself, they're all on the same spectrum. They are the same thing. I don't know how else to that is such an important concept. At least in 2024, this is true. This hasn't been true historically. Debt and money didn't used to be synonymous, but that's a rant for another day. It's kind of related to other rants that I've done, in the past with relation to the big corporations and stuff and how they're able to always outflank everybody, right? It's because they always have access to debt. Well, you can't do it the way they do it, but you can take the lesson home, right? Which is debt is money, is time, is cash flow, is everything. So, just be as flexible as the situation allows or calls for, because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you can't do what you love anymore, right? That's like, at least to me, that is such a horrifying, it's just bad. So you want to do what you love, and if you want to do what you love, then you've got to be smart about how you flex to the situations. Like, I'm telling you, economically, things are not going well. What are you going to do about it? You could get a job. Probably a very good idea, honestly. For a lot of reasons. Is that savory? No. But if you didn't get a job and you started a business instead without the requisite planning and finance and all that, you could still do it if you had all the resources and whatever. You had everything, all your ducks in a row. But let's say you didn't. And you start a business and your business goes bankrupt. And people hate you because you couldn't deliver on your last 5 clients because you went bankrupt. And now they're going to remember your name. And now you're never going to get those jobs again. You know what I mean? Just think in total. Think about what you're trying to do and where you're going, and just think holistically. That's the word, holistically. So yeah, those are all the things that I wish I accounted for, I thought about with regards to my business, and hopefully no matter what you're doing, you can see that, yeah, I gave film-related examples and stuff like this because that's been what I do and my experience, but hopefully, whatever art you're doing, hopefully this was helpful and you can learn from it and make decisions. Start your own business. I highly recommend it. If you're the kind of person who needs a team, do it with a team. If you can't find a team, at least find community. Excuse me. And that's 100% a very big goal of mine, because I've learned these lessons all the hard way. I don't have business owners in my family. I don't. I have there's no like person I can ask for advice or help. This is all just pain. so for me, I think I'm going through this reset to try to reclaim the future of my business, and what that looks for me right now is just dialing into what I actually do the best and dialing that in a way that is not necessarily the future, but just brings the whole company right back on track, on the rails again, with the goal in sight. So there you go. There you have it. And if you have any questions, by the way, about anything I said, you disagree, or you just want some not advice, you can go to our Discord. Link in the description. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't sue me. But you can ask me what I have done or what my opinions are on starting your own business, or like where you are, if you're a film in particular. I can't really speak to anything else, but we've got a gaming person here, we've got a music person here, and we all have different experiences. So hopefully, and we've got other people on the server as well. So we've all got our experiences, and hopefully we can help you out. And link to that is in the description.
Yep.
Sweet. Well,
I feel inspired to make like 10 things I wish I knew about game dev or something like that now.
Yeah. It's reflecting is always interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna go on to our last segment of the day, which is arguing with Reddit, which should be super fun. It's Ben's turn, I believe.
Yep.
So Ben will be reacting to hot takes and stuff about music. We all know we all have the same opinions about music. And if you want to catch that and give your comments or whatever, that'll be right after the break here. All right. And here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
All right, welcome to Mixed Media Music, the portion of Mixed Media podcast dedicated to all things music, with a particular emphasis on media music and on classical music. I'm the main host for Mixed Media Music. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer, and I am assisted by my two co-hosts, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Auriela based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
And my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer. I'm trying to fix my camera.
All right. Well, today on Mixed Media Music, we have Arguing with Reddit, which, if you are familiar with our podcast, each week one of us is arguing with Reddit, where my co-hosts have found some hot takes or questions or something like that on somewhere on the internet, usually from Reddit, and I haven't seen them, so I get to respond to them live with my instantaneous thoughts. And I've also picked one for myself that I also haven't really given much thought to. I barely remember what it is, so we'll see. I was just reading it last 10 seconds before we started, so I don't have much developed thought on that either. So yeah, let's get started.
With that, we'll start with yours, Ben, if you want to.
Okay. There's a lot of text on this one, and it's not all that important. So this is from our classical music. The title is, Should I Look Elsewhere for Great Music? And this person, a lot of background to what this person says. This person says essentially they're primarily a fan of soundtracks rather than popular or concert music. And they're listening to Classic FM, which is the main, or maybe it's as far as I know. I don't know how many classical radio stations there are in Britain, but it's certainly the main one. And the Classic FM has a huge social media presence. We pulled things from them before for arguing with Reddit. So this person was listening to them, and they played some music from Final Fantasy. This person says, I've always held composers like, say, Nobuo Uematsu in especially high regard. And I thought of him as, quote, classical, although that may be colored by how his work has been rearranged by others for classic-style performances. With them recently, one of this person's friends, who, quote, definitely knows more about music than me, caused this person some concern. This person's friend said, the track One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII was unoriginal and undeveloped without motifs and nothing tying it together. It had no themes or melodies, and due to its use of only one key, was incredibly boring. Another one of this person's friends says that, while that might be true, it doesn't necessarily diminish the effectiveness of the music, and that it can be really great or even legendary in its context, even if it's not great classical music. This person is concerned by the use of terms like great and legendary. So why the person wants to know why classical music people use such hyperbolic terms, and do they need to look elsewhere to find great or legendary music, or are they allowed to just enjoy essentially film music, or video game music? So okay, I'm leaving a lot out here. The last sentence is pretty good too. So I'll just read the last sentence. Am I overthinking this? I know that by all accounts I should just enjoy what I enjoy, but I feel that if one who, quote, knows their stuff, they say that. It's all literally quote here, but I'm highlighting that knows their stuff. Someone who knows their stuff qualifies Uematsu's music as merely boring, whereas genuine classical music is truly transcendent. There must be at least something to that notion. Okay, no, that's my response. If you like it, you like it, right? In fact, you could argue that a lot of classical music, you make it inaccessible because we listeners of classical music, that institutions which have a lot of money and have orchestras and opera houses and things like that, we make this inaccessible because we're stuck doing these notions of transcendence and genius, and we have institutionalized what is genius. This is not to say that there's nothing transcendent about listening to Bach, right? Yes. Is it great? Is it wonderful? Does it display something incredible of the human human spirit and ingenuity? Yes, absolutely, right? But we have so institutionalized some of these concepts that, well, one, we exclude a ton of other things that just aren't the things we've institutionalized, right? I know I mentioned earlier I'm trying to spend this month listening to more music by women composers, Women's History Month. Right? I don't know a lot of music by women composers, especially in the classical realm, and so I'm trying to take this opportunity to learn more about that, right? And I was reading some interesting statistics from something like the Women's Philharmonic League or something like that. It keeps really detailed statistics about how many women are programmed by major orchestras, how many works of theirs are programmed, what percentage of all this is, and whether it's decreasing or increasing. It's quite interesting that basically, we don't want women in our classical music institutionally. And it's not necessarily because women can't write classical music, although certainly the institutions prevented more women from having viable careers as composers in the past, but there are tons of women today, certainly. But also lots of women who persisted in writing despite that. A lot of them didn't necessarily make a full living off of it, but wrote lots of music anyway. It's not because there's a lack of this stuff, right? We've just kind of institutionalized what is great. So again, I'm not saying like throw out anything, right? But I think we can look for a little more diversity in these things, and we don't necessarily need to hold to such like a concept of like classical music requires a certain amount of knowledge to appreciate, which we absolutely do, at least in America. We kind of make it, you need program notes and you need a conductor sometimes quote demystifying the quote I see all the time, demystifying the music, as if you're not capable of understanding it unless you have either a degree in this stuff or you have some expert telling you what's going on. I don't need a degree in music to like appreciate Taylor Swift. And guess how popular Taylor Swift is, right? Okay. Is she totally fundamentally different than Shostakovich? Absolutely. But it's still, quite phenomenal in a different way. See my review of Taylor Swift's 1984, Taylor's version, or 1989, Taylor's version. You can search that. But yeah, so I'm kind of dancing around the question here and talking about institutionalized, like, we have erected these barriers to entry to music, and so it's a very Western centric view of what music is too, right? Because people saying that, well, it's not good because it is undeveloped without motifs and nothing tying it together and no themes or melody, and only has one key and therefore it's incredibly boring. And if it's effective at all, it can only be effective in its context. Tons of music doesn't have these qualities. In fact, probably lots of classical music doesn't have all of these qualities, right? Tons of classical music doesn't change key. Okay, so I agree. As a media, composer, right? That obviously you have to take into account the medium too, right? And that can make it even a better work of art. There are tons of classical pieces that don't, meet all of these criteria, and just tons of music throughout the world, non-Western music that doesn't, it doesn't meet all of these criteria. It does not make it lesser, right? It has a different role. I can't comment on this particular track. Although from the comments, some people are saying that it's actually based on one of Shostakovich's film scores, which interesting. I do know the score that they're referring to, but I do not know this track from Final Fantasy VII. Anyway, yeah. So again, I've kind of danced around this question, but my opinion is, if you like it, it's a good piece of music. Okay, it doesn't need to have these like magical words attached to it, for it to be a good piece of music for you, right? It doesn't need to have all these fancy technical things that you don't even know, right? And you don't need to know. That's because, yes, you can enjoy music on those levels, but you don't need to enjoy music on those levels. You can enjoy them on other levels, and are a combination of all these things. I can enjoy a piece intellectually, and I can also enjoy it emotionally. So, yeah. There's a lot of great music that is not classical, that does not live up to all of these standards. There's a lot of great classical music that doesn't live up to all of these standards. You don't need to look to some, arbiter of culture to tell you what is great and measure everything by that, right? You can find what is. There's not say like there's no like room for standards too, right? Certain things that like are broadly loved. Okay, that's important too. I know Irving has talked quite a bit about this concept. But if you enjoy it, like it doesn't live up to all the technical specifications of something that some arbiter of musical taste has said is important. Okay, you know, so what? Like you enjoy it. You don't need to go. You don't need to base your opinion of what is good solely on what other people have told you is good for reasons that don't even make sense to you. If you don't understand harmony and form, wherever you, so what? What's good is what's good.
Yep. So this next one here is from Nathan. If you want to go for it.
Yep. So this is from RSS Music, and it asks a simple question: how do we fix the streaming problem? And he writes, a lot of musicians have been complaining about not being compensated for their, whether it be by, is that a typo? Not being compensated for their work, presumably, whether it be by streaming platforms or social media apps like TikTok. What I don't understand is how we are going to solve this. Will music become more expensive, or will there be some sort of completely new way of consuming music?
I think, well, the cat's out of the bag. Streaming is here. It's not going away, right? So the benefit is that it's much easier for your music to get out there. The downside is that your music might reach 10 people. That's, you're not getting anything from that. Now, we've talked about Spotify in the past. I think what you might find ultimately down the line is that even fewer people will truly be able to make their living out of music than in the past, which is, maybe counterintuitive, right? Because it's never been that many people who can make music their career. I think that's ultimately where we're heading, and even if we ignore the AI problem, I think we'll probably ultimately see that fewer people can make music a full-time career, but a lot more people can make music. Good or bad, I don't know. If you have set your heart on making your income entirely from the songs you create, maybe not great. But if you just want to write things that are, of decent quality and have put it out there and, actually reach people instead of just like having written your score and it's going to sit on your shelf until you die, right? Maybe that's good. So, making money is probably harder to do, and it'll probably only become harder in the future. Now, I think we're at we're amidst a transitional stage where existing people doesn't quite benefit them, right? Unless you're Taylor Swift, they come back to her because she's got a monopoly on this sort of thing. She's making more money than probably she could have under the old, pre-streaming system of things. But a lot of other people are making less money. So I think we're in that transitional stage now. I don't know that there's really, just because streaming is the way it is, unless a bunch of artists, come together and make their own sort of streaming model. I don't think you're going to beat Spotify, right? Maybe Taylor Swift has enough money to challenge Spotify, maybe. But nobody else is Taylor Swift. So, that would be the only real alternative, is that artists collectively come up with a better alternative that provides a better service and also provides fair compensation to them. But that would require quite a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration, and it's not there. So if that doesn't happen, like I said, I think more people will have opportunities to release music. Fewer people will have opportunities to make a full-time career out of music.
That makes complete sense to me. Yeah. Actually, I had a random thought as you were talking. I was like, it's interesting because like Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're familiar with him he's on every platform. But one thing that he talks about when he talks about a concept called the new economy, which I think is a dead concept now, but he still talks about it, is that like to sort of exemplify the kind of concept that probably 10 basketball players could quit their teams and start a new league and kill the NBA, or at least create like such competition that it would be extremely harmful to the NBA. Which is a very small amount, if you think about it, like just 5 to 10 star players leave, and then it's just no one wants to watch the NBA anymore. Mm-hmm. Streaming is a lot less. I mean, there's a lot more, a lot more people on streaming. At the same time, you wonder how many people would it take. It's actually just an interesting question.
Well, you can probably. I wonder if you just took like I looked this up, like the most streamed people on Spotify, right? And then like the top, like that's the maximum damage they left, right? So.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I've said this, before when we've talked about Spotify, but not much better. But I prefer using YouTube Music, which basically has the same catalog as far as I'm aware as Spotify, but pays artists a little bit more. So especially if you are going to use the paid version of it, which I do. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by them. It's not great, but it's better than Spotify. I think it's literally like a whole order of magnitude more per stream, which is still like almost nothing, but a whole order of magnitude more per stream than Spotify. So if you do want an alternative to Spotify, it pays your artists a little bit more. I like YouTube Music.
Cool. Good rec. This last one is from me, and it's about a controversy I didn't hear about until I saw this post. So I don't really know what it's talking about. Maybe you do. It says Hans Zimmer is lying about the Dune 2 score. He keeps saying that he wrote the theme for the Doom 2 movie, Quiet Between the Storms, etc., after Part 1 was in theaters. But that melody is clearly a huge part of House Atreides on the Sketchbook album that was released before the film was ever in theaters. I think they mean the first film. What gives? And I actually saw like a lot of Hans Zimmer like related posts, like when I was just looking around about Dune 2, and a lot of people are mad for some reason. So I don't know if you know what's going on. Yeah.
Well, like I said, as part of Lent, I've been spending much less time consuming media, which is a good thing. Honestly, I haven't heard anything about this, and even like in my, the kind of social media realms of like actual film composers, I haven't seen anything about this. So that's odd. I mean, maybe I'm missing something or not paying enough attention, but like, I don't think it's something that actual film composers are talking about. So, people are concerned that Zimmer says that he wrote something new when the theme is in the sketch. I know, but when he released Dune, I think did I review the Dune score, the soundtrack? I think I did. Back when it came out.
Oh yeah, you did. I remember.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's the soundtrack and there's like the sketchbook or something like that. Yeah, where he has like ideas that inspired him. Right, working through things for actually seeing the film, I think was the idea. So it's the idea that there's some melody that's in the sketchbooks that works its way into this new track in the second film, and he says it's a new thing.
Yeah, I think it's like they say it's the theme for Doom 2. So I guess Doom 2 has a new theme. I don't know, and he's saying that that's a theme that he created after the first. But then they were like, we can clearly see it in the sketchbook. I don't know.
Oh. Um, I doubt Zimmer is lying. Really? I mean, he may honestly, it may not be as clear as some of these people think. I have to listen to this now. Do my homework. Maybe I'll come back next week and give my opinion on this. But I've seen Zimmer. He interacts on Facebook with film composers in the kind of more private realm, private groups in Facebook. He's pretty active. He's a very helpful presence, actually. I highly doubt he's just like, I'm gonna pull one over on the public.
Yeah.
Also, maybe it's a question of like people are finding maybe too much of a similarity, and maybe there's a similarity, but like, this idea is kind of in his subconscious, but he's not like directly adapting it. It's just similar, and to him it's something completely new. Maybe he means new in the sense that like, again, the idea he's even conscious of the idea of it from before, but now he's going to develop it and make it a fully fledged thing and make it the theme for this new film. Having seen the new film, it's the most appropriate thing as the theme. Maybe that's what he means by new. So I somehow doubt this is like a deliberate attempt to deceive people and say like, wow, I'm a great artistic genius and I came up with something new when actually I didn't. But also keep in mind that, like, composers take ideas from other people and themselves all the time.
Yeah,
James,
see Hans Zimmer with Pirates of the Caribbean and Gladiator, which they're the same theme.
Oh, actually, I have to reread it. He wrote something the other day on Facebook in one of his private forums that I'm in about the origin of the theme for Pirates of the Caribbean. Because it's quite interesting, because generally, like, the public, there's a lot of people like, who actually wrote it, right? I had to reread what he said. It was quite interesting. But yeah, or like James Horner, James Horner borrowed from himself all the time, his own scores. And I maybe somewhere in our, I can't remember if we've talked about this or not on our show. We had so many episodes at this point. I can't remember all of them. Yeah, he took some heat for that during his lifetime. Well, accusing him of not being, original composer because he was borrowing themes that he had already written for other films or ideas from other films that he had already done. And his response was basically, this is it's a pretty like soul crushing in a way, industry in a way. And like, one way you keep your sanity is by not having to reinvent the wheel every film. Like, if you found something that works, use it.
Yeah.
So, even if it is from his earlier idea, like, okay, so what?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess accompanied with this, a lot of the chatter I see is like, they seem very, I don't know what's going on. I really don't. So don't ask me. But I saw a lot of chatter about like him taking credit for like the work of his interns, like that basically he doesn't create anything anymore, that it's created like by team, and that he takes credit on behalf. I didn't know if this was related to that or not, but seems like Dune 2, for whatever reason, the soundtrack is controversial. I don't know why.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, I was actually going to go see it the other day, but did not. So I'd like to go see it. Hopefully, I don't like to bring some earplugs so I don't lose my hearing.
Yeah, it's loud.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen anything about this in like the actual realm of professional working film composers, so I don't think actual film composers care. So take that as you will.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of Dune 2, I do plan on seeing it as well at some point. I just don't look. If you don't remember, this is a plug for an episode I've done on the original Dune. Actually, check out both of our episodes on Dune. But I really did. I thought it was horribly boring. And I really didn't get the point of the film. And I really felt like I was living through someone's. I don't know anything about the Dune series, by the way, so I'm not commenting on the series. I'm talking about specifically the film. It felt like I was living through someone's like shower thought moments. I don't know how else to put it. It just felt like long stares into the void that didn't mean anything. And maybe they'll mean something in part 2. Maybe it'll make everything make sense. I don't know, but in isolation, I didn't really like it.
This is just reminding me how many episodes of our I can't even remember everything we've done. I barely remember that I talked about the music for Dune, but yes, I know I did. So we've been going for quite a while on this show.
We have. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all we have for arguing with Reddit tonight. Anything else? I can't think of anything. So
no, just be prepared for Fun Friday with Nathan.
Yeah.
Game dev time.
Yeah, 6:45 on Discord. If you're not on our Discord, you can find the link to our Discord server, mixedmediapodcast.com. You can also check out our locals page, where you can support us for $5 a month. Special shout out again to our supporters over there on locals: K Kairos, Alex Egbert, 909 Crime, and Post.
Yep, for sure. And we'll see you next week or on Friday.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching and listening.
Look, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We back, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on like that way. They know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers.